Imagine a mountain at the edge of the world. The wind howls across its bare stone. The sky is iron gray. And bolted into the rock, spread-eagled across the cliff face, is a figure who cannot die. His name is Prometheus. And every single day, as the sun rises over the Caucasus, an eagle descends from the clouds and tears out his liver while he is still conscious. Every night, the liver grows back. Every morning, the eagle returns. This has been happening for what Greek poets described as 30,000 years. This is the punishment Zeus invented for a crime that, from a modern perspective, doesn't sound like a crime at all. Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. That's it. For an act of compassion toward a race that didn't even exist yet when he was born, the king of the gods sentenced a fellow immortal to an eternity of agony. But this story is not about fire. And it's not really about Zeus. It's about the most profound question in all of Greek mythology: what do you do when the people in power are wrong? Because Prometheus didn't steal fire because he was a thief. He stole it because he was the only god who looked down at humanity and saw something worth saving. To understand Prometheus, you first have to understand what he was. He was a titan. And titans, in Greek mythology, were not monsters. They were the generation of gods that came before Zeus. Born from Gaia, the primordial earth, and Uranus, the primordial sky, the Titans ruled the cosmos in an age before human time was measured. There were 12 original Titans, 6 male and 6 female. They were led by Kronos, the youngest and most ambitious, who overthrew his own father Uranus with a sickle and claimed the throne. Under Kronos, the Titans built a world. They ordered the stars. They separated night from day. They created the seasons. And they lived in what the poet Hesiod called a golden age, an era of peace and abundance that humans could only dream about. Prometheus was not one of the original 12, but he was close. He was the son of Iapetus, one of the Titan brothers, and his mother was Clymene, an Oceanid. His name, in ancient Greek, means forethought, the one who thinks ahead. His brother, Epimetheus, had a name that meant the opposite, afterthought, the one who realizes too late. That simple linguistic detail will matter enormously before this story is over. Prometheus was born into a world ruled by his own family. But he was also born with a gift that his cousins and uncles did not share. He could see the future. And when he looked into what was coming, he saw something that terrified him: the end of the Titans. The war began the way most wars do, over a son who refused to die. Kronos, knowing that a prophecy predicted his own child would overthrow him, swallowed each of his children as soon as they were born. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. All of them were consumed alive by their own father. Only the last child, Zeus, was saved when Kronos' wife Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and handed it to him as a decoy. Zeus grew up in a cave on Crete, nursed by nymphs, raised in secret. And when he reached adulthood, he returned, forced Kronos to vomit up his siblings, and declared war on the Titan order. This conflict, the Titanomachy, lasted 10 years. Mountains were thrown. Rivers were boiled. The earth itself cracked under the weight of gods fighting gods. And here is where Prometheus made the choice that defined him. When the war began, he had to pick a side. His own brothers, his own uncles, his own cousins were fighting for Kronos. But Prometheus, with his gift of foresight, saw what the other Titans could not. He saw that Zeus would win. Not because Zeus was stronger, the Titans were stronger. But because Zeus had something the Titans lacked: cunning, strategy, and the willingness to break any rule to survive. So Prometheus did something almost no other Titan did. He and his brother Prometheus switched sides. They fought for Zeus against their own family. And when the war ended with the Titans hurled into Tartarus, the deepest pit beneath the underworld, Prometheus stood among the victors. The Titan who betrayed his own kind to join the gods. And for a brief time, Zeus loved him for it. After the war, the world needed to be rebuilt. The gods divided the cosmos among themselves. Zeus took the sky, Poseidon took the sea, Hades took the underworld, and they began to populate the earth with new creatures. Prometheus, Prometheus's scattered-minded brother, was put in charge of distributing qualities among the animals. Speed to the deer. Strength to the lion. Wings to the eagle. Armor to the turtle. He gave away everything he had. And then, too late, he realized he had forgotten one species. Humans. This is where Prometheus, foresight, steps in where afterthought had failed. According to Hesiod, Plato, and multiple other ancient sources, Prometheus went down to the riverbank and began shaping humans out of clay. He molded them with his own hands. He gave them a form that resembled the gods themselves, standing upright, facing the heavens, capable of thought. Then Athena, goddess of wisdom and his sometime ally, breathed a soul into each one. But humans in this original form were helpless. They had no fur to keep them warm. No claws to defend themselves. No natural weapons at all. They wandered the earth shivering, starving, hunted by the very animals Prometheus had equipped so generously. They could not cook their food. They could not forge tools. They could not survive winter. The other gods didn't care. To Zeus, humans were a curiosity, a new species of small creatures who worshipped the gods in gratitude and offered sacrifices. That was their purpose. That was all they were meant to be. But Prometheus looked at them, his creations, and he saw something the other gods refused to see. He saw potential. He saw that if given the right tools, these fragile, clay-made creatures could become something extraordinary. And that is how the trouble began. Before Prometheus stole fire, there was another incident, one that gets left out of the Disney version. A feast at a place called Mecone. All the gods were present. All the humans were present. And the question on the table was this: when a human sacrificed an animal to the gods, which part would belong to the gods, and which part would belong to the humans? This was not a small question. It determined the entire economy of religion. If the gods claimed the meat, humans would starve feeding them. If humans kept the meat, their sacrifices would be insulting. Prometheus volunteered to divide the offering. He took a large ox and cut it in half. But he cut it cleverly. In one pile, he put all the meat, the organs, the good edible parts, and he covered them in the stomach lining, making the pile look disgusting. In the other pile, he put only the bones, and he wrapped them in the finest, glistening white fat, making that pile look like a feast fit for kings. Then he invited Zeus to choose first, which pile would belong to the gods forever. Zeus, blinded by appearances or perhaps too proud to look closely, chose the fat-wrapped bones. When he unwrapped it and saw only bones underneath, he understood immediately what had happened. Prometheus had tricked him. Had tricked him in front of everyone. had secured the good meat for humans for all eternity. Zeus said nothing. But the anger that began at Mecone was the anger that would eventually chain a titan to a mountain. Because Zeus does not forget. And Zeus does not forgive. And Prometheus had just put humans ahead of the king of the gods, in public, on the record, forever. Zeus's first retaliation was to take fire away from humans. It's often forgotten that Zeus was the one who removed fire in the first place. Humans had fire, or something like it, before Mecone. After Mecone, Zeus decreed that fire belonged only to the gods. Humans would eat raw meat. They would freeze in winter. They would live in darkness once the sun went down. That was the price of Prometheus's insolence. For Prometheus, this was unbearable. He watched his creation suffer. He watched them die of cold, of hunger, of fear. And he realized that the only way to save them was to commit a second crime, a much greater one. According to Hesiod, Prometheus went to Olympus under some other pretext. He approached the hearth of the gods, or in another version, the forge of Hephaestus. And there, he hid a single ember inside the hollow stalk of a giant fennel plant, a reed-like stem that can carry a flame for hours without burning up. He walked out of Olympus with the stolen fire hidden inside the stalk. He descended to the earth. And he gave that fire to humanity. The moment they had it, everything changed. They cooked their food. They forged metal. They built furnaces. They made weapons and tools and art. They began to shape the world instead of just surviving in it. Within a generation, humans were no longer the weakest creatures on Earth. They were the most dangerous. And from Olympus, Zeus watched. And he saw what Prometheus had done. And he began to plan a punishment that would last 30,000 years. Before we get to the chain and the eagle, we have to talk about Pandora. Because Zeus's first act of revenge wasn't against Prometheus. It was against humanity itself. And it involved a woman who was designed, by the gods, to be a trap. Zeus ordered Hephaestus, the god of craft, to create the first woman out of clay. Not a human the way Prometheus had made humans, but something more refined. Something beautiful. Athena clothed her. Aphrodite gave her irresistible charm. Hermes gave her a cunning mind and a lying tongue. Her name was Pandora, all gifted, because each of the gods contributed a quality to her. Then Zeus handed her a jar. A sealed, ornate jar. And he told her never to open it. He knew she would. He sent Pandora to Earth as a gift, specifically, a gift to Prometheus's brother Epimetheus. Remember, Epimetheus was the brother whose name meant afterthought, the one who always realized things too late. Prometheus had warned him, explicitly, never to accept a gift from Zeus. But Pandora was beautiful. And Epimetheus took her as his wife. Then, one day, Pandora opened the jar. Out flew every evil that has ever tormented humanity. Sickness. War. Famine. Envy. Betrayal. Old age. All the miseries that plague human existence, released into the world in a single moment. Pandora slammed the lid shut in horror, but everything had already escaped. Everything except one thing, which was still rattling around at the bottom of the jar when she sealed it. Hope. Zeus had his revenge. He couldn't take fire back from humans. so he made sure that fire would never be enough. Now Zeus turned his attention to Prometheus himself, the Titan who had betrayed him, the Titan who had thrown his generosity back in his face, the Titan who loved humans more than he loved gods. Zeus ordered two of his most brutal servants, Kratos, the god of strength, and Bia, the goddess of force, to seize Prometheus. They dragged him to the farthest edge of the known world, to the Caucasus Mountains, where the cliffs meet the cold ocean and no mortal has ever set foot. Hephaestus, the same god who had crafted Pandora, was ordered to forge the chains. Hephaestus, who had actually been on good terms with Prometheus, protested. He said he didn't want to do it. But Zeus's orders were absolute. Hephaestus forged the chains. They were not ordinary chains. They were adamantine, a divine metal that cannot be broken. They bound Prometheus's wrists, his ankles, his neck, and his chest to the rock face. A great iron spike was driven through his torso to pin him to the mountain forever. He could not move. He could not turn his head. He could only stare into the gray sky and wait. And then came the eagle. The Greeks were obsessed with the liver. They believed it was the seat of the soul, the organ where emotion, courage, and life force resided. When Zeus chose which organ the eagle would consume each day, he wasn't picking randomly. He was attacking Prometheus's essence. Every morning, as the sun rose, the eagle of Zeus, a massive creature with bronze-tipped feathers, descended from the clouds and landed on Prometheus's chest. It used its talons and its beak to tear open his side. It devoured his liver while he was fully conscious. Prometheus could not die. He could not lose consciousness. He could only feel, in perfect detail, every moment of the mutilation. At night, his body healed. The wounds closed. The liver regrew. And at dawn, the eagle returned. And it happened again. And again. And again. For 30,000 years, according to the dramatist Aeschylus. 30,000 mornings of agony. 30,000 nights of waiting for the pain to return. But here's the detail that changes everything. Prometheus never apologized. He never asked Zeus for mercy. Aeschylus, in his play Prometheus Bound, has the chained titan say this: "I would not exchange my misfortune for your servitude. Better to be the servant of this rock than the trusted messenger of Father Zeus." He was in more pain than any being in the universe. And he still said it was worth it. Because humans had fire. Because something he had suffered for continued to exist beyond himself. Because he had made the right choice, and he knew it, and no amount of torture could make him pretend otherwise. That is what made Prometheus immortal in a way that had nothing to do with being a god. The story of Prometheus's suffering is not the end of the story. Because eventually, after countless generations, someone came to free him. And the rescuer was not a god. Not an angel. Not a savior sent from Olympus. It was Heracles. Hercules, to the Romans. A half-mortal hero, the son of Zeus and a human woman, who was on his way to complete one of his 12 labors when he passed near the Caucasus Mountains and heard the screams of the Titan echoing off the cliffs. Heracles climbed the mountain. He saw what his father had done. And he was disgusted. With a single arrow from his bow, he shot the eagle as it descended for its morning meal. Then he broke the adamantine chains, not by force, but with the permission of Zeus himself, because by this point even Zeus had grown tired of the punishment and was looking for a way to end it without losing face. Prometheus was freed. He stood, for the first time in 30,000 years, under his own power. The wound in his side would leave a scar that no god could heal, a permanent mark of what he had endured. But he was free. And here's the final twist. Ancient sources say that Zeus, as a condition of Prometheus's release, required the Titan to wear a ring made from the iron of his chains and a fragment of the rock he had been bound to. For the rest of eternity, Prometheus was required to wear a symbol of his imprisonment. Some scholars believe this is the origin of the wedding ring, a band of metal worn to remember a bond. The first ring anyone ever wore was a Titan's reminder that he had been punished for loving humanity too much. Of all the myths the Greeks left us, Prometheus is the one that keeps getting retold. Mary Shelley subtitled her novel Frankenstein, The Modern Prometheus, because she saw in Prometheus the perfect metaphor for a creator whose gift to humanity would be both wondrous and terrible. Percy Bysshe Shelley, her husband, wrote an entire epic poem called Prometheus Unbound, a retelling in which the Titan's liberation represents the liberation of the human mind from tyranny. Beethoven composed a ballet about him. Goya painted him. Kafka wrote a haunting short story about him. Why does this myth refuse to die? Because Prometheus is every person who ever stood up to an unjust power on behalf of people who had no voice. He is every whistleblower. Every scientist who risked their career to tell the truth. Every activist who knew the cost of speaking and spoke anyway. He is the archetype of the rebel who suffers for the many, the figure who appears in every culture under different names because the need for him is universal. But there is one more thing about Prometheus that the ancients understood and we sometimes forget. Foresight is a curse. Prometheus knew what would happen to him when he stole fire. He knew about the chains, the eagle, the 30,000 years. He saw it in advance. And he did it anyway. That is the choice at the heart of this myth. Not the theft. Not the punishment. But the moment when a being with the power to avoid suffering chose to suffer, because the alternative was watching innocents die while he did nothing. Which mythology should we explore next? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe to the Myth Archive. The stories that shaped civilizations are still being told, you just have to know where to listen.